Are you a leader? And should everyone be a leader? That is a question we're going to answer in today's episode. Hello, my name is Z.
And I'm Rich. Hey Z, I heard you had another MC gig recently.
I did. Actually, I did here in the headquarters, and it was a fun event, man. So just I don't know if you knew much about it, but we had our very first device day here at Insight, where we brought in a lot of our customers to connect with a lot of our manufacturers, right? A lot of our partners, including HP, Lenovo, Microsoft, and so on. And it was fun, dude. I mean, first of all, they trust me with talking to customers. That was great. Thank you. But at the same time, man, it was really good to just, first of all, connect with our customers as Insight, but also for me personally to connect with people that either I haven't met before, first time, but also old acquaintances. I actually bumped into an old colleague of mine from a previous organization. At first, I didn't. I kind of, have you ever had that feeling when you see someone, you're like, I think I know them.
Yeah.
I had that. I was like, I think I know them, and then they came and approached me, said their name. We just hit it off like we went back in time again. And what I love about that though is that we just started sharing, our journey and where we are today. And he's enjoying his job, his organization. Of course, I shared that I'm enjoying what I'm doing here and what I have a passion for. But then we went on to like, hey, what are you doing? Are you doing the things that you want to do? And he said, no, actually, I want to do like a podcast. I want to do a little bit more. And I asked him why not. And I think with a lot of us is, we tend to kind of self-sabotage ourselves. I'm not good enough. Who wants to listen to me? And what we're going to talk about today's topic is also like, well, who wants to follow me, right? Am I really somebody that people want to look up to and follow and be a leader is what today's all about.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to kind of, reiterate what we talked about in the last episode, our leadership commitments and, how that can reinforce, some of those leadership styles and skills and just kind of really hold you accountable as a leader because leadership takes a lot of work. It's, it's not just a title.
Yeah, and speaking of titles, we did have an updated, if you were paying attention to the first episode and the last two, Rich, your title has changed a little bit. We decided, hey, let's give you a podcast title. And, ambitious leader is what we came up with. And who knows, it might vary over our episodes. But what do you think about us changing your title to ambitious leader?
Yeah, so first I want to say stay tuned for that. Tune in. Secondly, thanks for bringing that up, Z. Yes, ambitious leader. So we'll start off with the ambitious part. So with that part, everything that I try to come to the table with always has that desire and determination. So that's where the ambitious part comes in. And the leadership, we're leading the charge here with this podcast here. So and actually good segue. That's what we're about to discuss here in this podcast. What does it mean to be a leader and who can be a leader? Am I a leader?
Yeah, well, that's only a question you can answer. But no, that's the big question, right? And then this podcast being that it's a leadership podcast, I think, it's one of those that we should start off with one of our first episodes to talk about that. First of all, if you're a person that has followers, that people look up to, that respect, that see you as somebody who's credible, whether you're a manager, whether you're a director, it doesn't matter what your title is. But if people look up to you and they come to you for advice, for guidance, for direction, then you're a leader. And that can be in various different aspects. There's examples of, it can be your personal life. That can be at work, could be in projects that you do, could be in a circle of friends that you have. It's in various different aspects that you can be seen as a leader. So yeah, I mean, if you're in a situation where people look up to you, where they look for guidance, direction, for you to make decisions, and you're someone that they've seen as credible, then you're a leader. So question, are you a leader?
Yeah, I mean, I would absolutely consider myself a leader.
You're an ambitious leader.
Ambitious leader, there you go. And by the title of my podcast title, I'm an ambitious leader, not just a leader. So, no, yeah, absolutely. I love everything that you mentioned just kind of reinforces that leadership aspect and, the title. Whether you do or don't actually have that in your official title is, kind of irrelevant, right? You can still hold yourself to those leadership standards.
Yeah, one of the things that we talk about here in some of the trainings that we deliver and the programs that we have, we leverage a lot. We leverage a lot of Franklin Covey content, great content, and of course any content that we learn or get certified in, we also kind of put in our culture spin to it, or we try to say, how does this fit within Insight?
Yeah.
One of the trainings that we deliver is around speed of trust and leading at the speed of trust. And what I love about that training, there's a lot of it, right? Especially the title being trust. But the number one thing that talks about is you have to. There's a circle that says, hey, not only in order for it to be credible, for people to trust you and believe you, not only do they have to see that you're a leader, that you're delivering your results or promising what you deliver, but then you also have to speak it, right? Like, hey, I'm gonna do this for you. I got your back. But then the behaviors complement that. So it's all complementary, because if all you're saying, Rich, hey, trust me, believe in me, man. I'm your leader. I got your back. But then you're gone for a week, or you asked me to do something, you come back, I didn't do anything. You're gonna be like, what's up, man? What's going on, right? And then you're seeing that I keep going on my day. I don't apologize. I don't know up to it. You're gonna start to lose that credibility, and you're gonna stop seeing me as a leader, right? So it's that see, speak, and behave patterns that I really love, and it's something that resonates with me all the time, because it keeps me in check.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, hey, are people seeing me, doing the right thing? Are they seeing me stand up for my team? Are they seeing me do these actions? And my actions also following with the right behaviors and patterns? But then the last thing is like, hey, also am I speaking with confidence? Am I speaking truth? Am I speaking in a way that a leader should speak? And I think all those three kind of go hand in hand.
Sure, absolutely. And I don't know that there's any one of those segments that are more important than the other, but yeah, definitely all complement each other and definitely help the leadership aspect. As you mentioned, you can say it all day long, but if you don't follow through with those actions, coming behind it, it's very important, and that, either builds that rapport and that credibility, or it can definitely erode it just as quickly. So
yeah, and things that come to my mind is a lot of examples that we see of leaders that we look and go, yeah, that's something that I want to emulate, that I want to take on. And same thing with the bad behaviors, things that I don't want to do with my team, right? I don't want to do what they just did, or I didn't feel that I was included, and this is what the leader did or how they made me feel. But thinking of one example, again, I mentioned in our previous episode, Jen Vasson, which is our chief human resource officer, and one of the stories she shared with us, and I love stories, right? Is that she has a mentor, somebody who works in the finance industry, and her relationship, or her mentor-mentee relationship, is that she mentors him in the human resource elements of his job, but he mentors her on the financial stuff, right? Budgeting and things like that, because those are just like their areas of strength, mm-hmm. and in the areas of opportunity to grow.
Sure.
Well, what are the conversations she had with them? It was around like, hey, about leadership, and he said that one of the biggest lessons that he learned when he was in college, top student, I can imagine, honors, highest GPA ever, took his education serious. His final course leading up to graduation, there was a final exam, which of course he probably studied and got prepared and did everything. Well, when he sat down for the test or the exam, he noticed that there's only one sheet of paper turned upside down, which isn't typical. He's like, usually they're pretty thick, a lot of questions. So he's like, okay, well, this is going to be interesting. I wonder why there's one sheet. Then the professor said, all right, go ahead and flip your pages over and take the test. Well, he took the test, and there was only one question in there. So far, it's sounding pretty good until he read the question. What is the name of the janitor that services the university or the building? He didn't know. He's like, what? I don't even know we had a janitor. I thought this. I'm like, what does that place clean itself? Like, come on. So he was stumped, and he was shocked a little. Maybe I'm kind of putting myself in his shoes now too. Sure. A little frustrated, like what I studied, and this was something I didn't. But the lesson that he learned is that everybody in an organization, everybody you meet, it's important. You shouldn't have a title just because you have a title or you have a fancy name in front of you or what have you, or current office. You should see yourself as just as everybody else, and everybody has something of value. And that's just a great example of, again, of what is leadership.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned that story, just to kind of elaborate and expand on, not just those hard skills of like, the financial aspect, the do, you bring in the HR aspect of those soft skills, those people skills, being empathetic and actually being able to speak to the people that you lead and, really, motivating them and allowing them to bring their best selves forward. And, that all ties in as a major part. So,
yeah. And the fact that you shared that story and now I'm telling you, so it's what I love about stories, right? Like someone tells somebody a story, then they teach somebody else and it becomes like a lesson that goes on, man. And we all can learn from those things. Speaking of the See, Speak, and Behave, also want to give an awesome shout out. I just found out that one of our executives, Megan Amdahl, is, again, not only speaking, and we see her in her leadership, but in her behavior, she's actually doing things in the community, right? I think recently we just sent out a press release or news information, that she's helped a part of the Boys and Girls Club in Miami.
Yeah.
And, there to offer them several devices and several other things to set them up for success, which is, for me, again, someone who's giving back to the community, going out there, doing this in person, instead of just saying, here, go ahead and send this to them, like her being there. Wanted to thank them and, encourage them to use technology, right? To get them immersed.
Yeah. So awesome to be partnering with that Boys and Girls Club for that elementary school. 78 laptops. I mean, that's no small feat. So
Yeah.
definitely some major credibility there. So awesome. Actually, so let me ask you something, Z. When did you first see yourself as a leader?
Oh, well, it all started in the womb. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's interesting. Looking back, because that's a good question, because, my first reaction, or a lot of people's reaction, would be like, well, when I first became a manager and was responsible for leading a team. But then I look further back, because my first answer would be like when I was 18, I managed a 7-Eleven in a not so nice part of town. But it was even before then. It was when I grew up, actually, when I was the oldest of 4, and I had a responsibility to make sure that I, kind of showed the way to my younger siblings. And did I do a good job? I'm gonna say a decent job, not the best, because there were times that I let the power, the title of the big brother get the best of me. Example, you probably heard this if you have kids, or maybe if you had an older brother, or maybe you were that older brother. Parents leave, or they put you in charge, and all of a sudden you have this power trip, like, I'm the boss, you ain't the boss of me, kind of back and forth. I'm the boss, I'm the leader. And that didn't go so well. It kind of reminds me of people kind of like pitchforks and, kind of ready to just to overturn my leadership. But that was very few and far between. The majority of the time, like, I would lead by example. I would be there for them. If they were struggling, I would help them through their homework, going to school myself, going to college, kind of paving that way as well. And that's definitely where I felt like when I first realized, like, yeah, I was a leader, like, at that stage, and it kind of just went on from there.
Yeah.
How about you? When did you know you were a leader?
Yeah, great question. So actually, we share a similar story. I'm the oldest of 4 as well. So I don't know if I attribute everything to that aspect, but probably a large portion of it. And also the parents. Thanks, Mom and Dad. Also, just, throughout grade school, always did well in school, top of my class in high school and college, things like that. So I always felt the need to, push it to the next level and always bring my best self and perform to the best of my abilities. So I think that's kind of really where it's maybe not so much started, but where I actually realized it. And then from that aspect, just moving into Insight, joining Insight, just reinforcing those leadership, any of our leadership principles and values. So I think that kind of, sums it up.
It's funny, man. Now that we have that in common, man. Did you ever get in trouble for something that wasn't your fault, even though your siblings did it?
All the time. The finger point. He did it.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
What do I say?
Right. Or they did it, but then they go back to you like, you should have done something about it.
Exactly.
It's
you still have that responsibility, right?
Yeah,
So
it's going back to that, man. Responsibility, right? Knowing that it is a responsibility. Like, it's not going to be like, Whatever it's not like you're royalty and saying what I say goes and everybody does whatever I want around me. Because again, we know by history examples that doesn't work so well.
Right.
Going back, I said I was a manager at a 7-Eleven at 18. That was an interesting learning curve for me too, right? So going, through high school, completed high school, had to then pay for my college and pay my way. So I had an opportunity after working at a gas station in high school. I knew the owner very well. His son-in-law was opening up a 7-Eleven, and right away recommended me, which was again awesome, right? But again, that shows maybe he saw leadership, right? He's like, hey, he's doing what I tell him to do. He's, people are coming to me for advice, for guidance, for recommendations. Like I would pick stuff up quickly. So he recommended. So he again offered me the job. I was surprised. By the way, what enticed me to get the role? At first, I'm like, I don't know. Am I a leader? He goes, I got a Motorola Razr for you that I'm going to give you. And I'm like, sold. That's the coolest phone ever back then. Heck yeah, give me that Razr. But as soon as I got there, the biggest challenge, man, everybody that was working there at the store were probably in their maybe 30s, late 40s, Also, several of them were from other countries. They were immigrants. So, and then with their culture, then, they really value not seniority, but they value, their elders and people that have experience. So right away, then who is this kid at 18 going to manage us? So I had that pushback, and it was tough at first. I could have easily got power trip, be like, hey, I'm the manager, I have the title, I got this job, and just start barking orders. But quickly I realized that's not going to work. I can see the hesitation. It's just something that I noticed, right? That can see them not looking me in the eyes, looking away, kind of brushing things off. You had to be assertive, 100%, but assertive in a way that it was more like, confident in what I'm saying, following up, checking in with them, doing the job too, like rolling up my sleeves, don't just sit in the back, like getting in there, going through these, asking for their advice. Another thing, what do you think works here? What's not working? What do you recommend? Things like that. And little by little, I built trust with them, and then we ended up working well. And that, for me, that was a challenge at first, but again, all the things that I've learned over the years led me to have a good experience overall. So
yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's amazing. And kind of also illustrates, not only do you talk the talk, you walk the walk, and it's not just about you being the leader and you dictating that, but you're also saying, hey, we're a team here. Like I'm going to roll up my sleeves and I'm going to help you, and I'm going to whatever we need to accomplish, we're going to do this together as a team. That in itself is such a good leadership quality that so many, I think, lack. So that great example there.
But if you tell me maybe 5-10 years ago, or 5-10 years ago, I probably would have never thought of that. I would have just kind of think like, I guess I am, maybe. But then I challenge all of you, right, to kind of look at your history and what you've done in your life. And I'm confident that you'll find examples where you demonstrated leadership abilities, or you had the opportunity to be seen as a leader that we just take for granted. Sure. And now looking back, I'm like, yeah, that was actually a good part, a great learning opportunity in my life, that now I can look back and going, oh, those are a lot of good lessons. Yeah. At the time, I didn't even know. I never went through leadership training. I never knew that, right? It was all just by doing.
Right.
So
exactly. Yeah. So you gave us some good examples about leadership, your leadership styles, things of that nature. So let's talk a little bit. Let's shift focus a little bit. What about some examples of non-leaders? Let's talk about that aspect.
Yeah. Well, what I like about you transitioning to that question is that you took the biggest sigh. Like you were just like, oh, that was a lot to unpack. All right, let's go in there. But I think that's a good call out as well. So we're talking about, are you a leader? Should everybody be a leader? I think we hopefully addressed the question of, are you a leader? Yes, you can be. It takes work, right? It takes work, and it's not something that you just can easily just take and go with it. But the second part of that, can everybody be a leader? And I'm going to say, yes, they can, but again, some are not ready to be leaders, or shouldn't be leaders at the time. Right. Great example of non-leaders. Well, again, these are leaders or individuals who go into a position or role of responsibility and see it more as wanting to go after the reward, wanting the recognition for themselves, like the title, like the power. the ability to have others do the hard work while you enjoy the fun stuff, right? Not to say that leadership isn't fun. Of course, it's rewarding. It's hard, but it's rewarding. But people that are non-leaders are the ones that basically have all the fun but don't do any of the work.
Yeah.
Right? Don't have that. Going back to that example of that executive, that mentor of Jen, is once again, hey, are you treating everybody with respect? Are you you treat everybody as equal? You don't see yourself above anybody else.
Right.
You're there to, if you're not there to serve, your team and be a part of the team, then definitely it's not a non-leader. Do you have any examples of what would a non-leader be, or do you agree, or do you disagree?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, just going back to our previous experiences, I've worked in sales as well, and I've had a boss. I won't divulge too much information, but being in sales, you always want to go after, be the lead salesman, sell as much as possible, sell. That's kind of the mentality behind it. So it was always a point of them dictating the orders and then us carrying out the sales or whatever we had to do. And from that aspect, I can definitely understand the leadership versus boss, or, kind of how you framed it before, where, the leaders will get in there and roll up their sleeves and help you and develop you, versus the boss who will, maybe just bark orders or kind of dictates without, any reinforcement or backup or letting you know that they're part of the team. Yeah, they're part of the team. They may be taking all the credit for it, but it's not it's not a shared responsibility. It's not really lifting up your people and being that true leader that we kind of develop here at Insight.
Yeah, you covered a couple things. This is what I love about these conversations, because as you're sharing and you're giving me examples right away, what I thought about is another thing. It's not non-leader. It's taking the credit, and not sharing it abundantly. Right? Maybe you did have a part of doing it, or you made the final decision, but there was a lot of steps and the people that led up to that. And I would even say a leader actually gives more credit than they take themselves. Oh my gosh, hey, my team did this.
Yeah.
Rich, I don't know if you met Rich, but you got to meet him. He's amazing. He does this, right?
Sure.
Stacy, she's a guru when it comes to this. Next time there's a project, I would highly recommend whatever, right? Yep. You promote and you say it proudly and loud about what your team does. And when people start to give you that recognition, instead of just being quiet about it and kind of going, yeah, pretty cool. Yeah, that's right. It's like, you know what? Thank you. But actually it was a team effort, man. And I have a lot of people behind that made this happen, and give some examples. So that's another good call out. A non-leader is one that takes all the credit.
Yeah.
It's a horrible feeling, man. I mean, it's definitely doing that. And we're not going to share names when it comes to examples. So I'm glad all names are innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah, there you
go. But I'm thinking about other examples of non-leaders, and that once again, is those individuals who again see. Let me give an example. I remember in my career, there was those teammates or individuals that would seek the title, that would go after the shiny, corner office. And for me, that was always a red flag of like, you know what, that isn't a good sign right now. The fact that they're going after that means they're very reward centric. A good book recommendation is called The Motive by Patrick Lencioni. And he talks about these two types of leader, right? There's the reward centric versus the responsibility-based leader. And that's one of the tools in the books and the references that we use for our Aspiring Leadership Program, which, by the way, Birdie tells me that you're going to be a part of it here soon. So that will be something as we go through the podcast to see what you're learning.
Absolutely. And I'm very excited for that. I know it's going to be a large undertaking, but definitely excited, definitely ready for it. And wish I could have made it happen, this quarter, but there's a lot of things flying around. As always, had to make some schedule adjustments, and now we're in the good.
Yeah. So. And it's funny because we talked about that in our first episode, right? We're always going to be too busy, but also you want to be realistic to yourself.
Yeah.
But make sure that you find that proper balance where it's not something that you're going to stretch yourself too thin, but also make it happen, dude. And it's not like you said no. It's like, not right now, but you said Q and coming up the next one. So, when you say that, now you have somebody hold you accountable. We got you. We're like, all right, man, Rich, let's go, make it happen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and as much as it means to me, I know I wanted to give my full 100%, right? You know, as I mentioned before, I want to bring the best of myself, perform at the best of my abilities, and I knew that, you know, this quarter was a little heavy on the workload, so I had to push it out.
This podcast too, man. It's another element that.
Oh yeah, good call, good call out. Minor details.
I
right?
just want to give a shout out too, man. The work that you're putting in the back end, you know, getting the communication, being really the project manager of this whole podcast and kind of directing it. I just couldn't thank you enough, man. This wouldn't be taking place if it wasn't for your partnership and all your hard work, man. So thank you.
Thank you. See, good leadership skills, everyone.
In action.
Yes.
Awesome, man. Well, yeah, I mean, I think that kind of hopefully we answered today's questions. If we didn't, you know, again, let us know in the discussion or, you know, any outlet that you're watching this episode. Let us know what other questions you have around this topic. We'll always bring back these topics as we keep discussing them. It's not going to be just one and done. Yeah.
So we talked about, you know, what it means to be a leader, who can be a leader, you know, how different examples of that, and even examples of, you know, some skills that maybe don't necessarily lead themselves to or lend themselves to, you know, an apt leader or somebody who we would train. And, you know, is there anything else that I missed in that, Z?
No, again, just, are you a leader? Yeah, you can. Yes, you are a leader. You just have to now put the work into it, right? You have to have people to look up to you, follow you. You have to be someone that's credible. And we haven't even talked about credibility. There's elements there that kind of make up credibility, and we can put that in future episodes. But yeah, you have to establish that credibility with individuals, and this not only applies to leadership, but it applies to giving feedback and sharing thoughts. People are going to now be more up to like, oh my gosh, yeah, dude, well, everything that Rich says around this is gold. Listen. So I think that's another aspect of it. So yes, you are a leader, but you have to put in the work. You have to be responsible. You know, you have a responsibility in your hands, and it's totally doable. Now, should everybody be a leader? And the answer to that, I hate to say it, but no. If they are not in for the right reasons, the right motives, and just for the reward, taking all the credit, then, you know, I'm sorry, but you're not a leader. And sometimes, hey, it's okay. Step down. Let somebody who can do that role. Maybe at the time you still need to develop your leadership, and we talked about that. Always develop your skills, develop your leadership. And this is what another outlet is, this podcast. Continue to join us every episode. A quick shout out. I had a few teammates reach out to me saying, hey, I really already love what you're putting out. I've been listening to your first episode. Set a call up with me. Once again, right, is these connections, and wanted to know more about what I do, how we can align or partner, and then for advice. So already we're seeing results.
Great.
We're seeing people finding value in this.
Yeah, and actually, for more stories of our leaders in action, follow us on social media. And if this episode resonates with you, like and subscribe to our podcast for the latest episodes.